Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Tonight we have with us a special guest back on the show. We have Mike Browning of Nocturnus AD. Welcome back to the show, Mike.
All right, Jet, how you doing? Always good to be on here, for sure.
Doing great. Okay, so Mike, Nocturnus AD has a lot of new things going on, but before we get into all of that, let's tell some of the people some of the history behind the band. So, Mike, give the listeners a little bit of a history lesson here on when you got started, you know, when you started the band, and what led to the band kicking you out. And then you pick it up with...
Yeah, well, you know, back real fast, a little quicker, farther back, I could just do a real thing where I started my first band, you know, with Morbid Angel, of course, right out of high school with Trey, and that went to like 1986, and then after that, I did, with the bass player we had at the end of Morbid Angel, we did a thing called Incubus for about 6 months, and that was in 87. After that split up, it was about, well, maybe 7 or 8 months, I think the band lasted about that long, but right after that, I decided to do my own project, and I came up with this. I was actually listening to a Slayer song, and Hell Awaits, and on that album, At Dawn They Sleep, and he said Nocturnal Specters, you know, and I was like, man, that's such a cool line, you know, and I wanted to name the band Nocturnal Specters, you know, but I was like, but I can't steal it. Slayer, you know, that would just be stupid, you know, but I like the ring of it, you know, so I kind of like looked up the word nocturnal, and I saw the Latin version was Nocturnus, and I said, man, that's got a good ring to it, you know, so I was like, I'm going to call the band Nocturnus. It's got a, you know, it means night, got a Latin kind of term to it. It'll just kind of all fit. Mm-hmm. So that was like the beginning of it in 87, and it started really with just me and a bass player, Richard Bateman, who's in Nasty Savage, and he was in Agent Steel, and he had quit the band on tour, and he came back to Tampa where he's from, and he was like, he had just got home off the tour, and they were still out on tour. He just left the tour in the middle of the tour, and so yeah, he's like, I'm done with that band. He's like, you want to do something? I'm like, yeah, I just quit my situation too. So we started Nocturnus as just drums and bass, and kind of did one song at BCAD, you know, just bass and drums, and I started writing the lyrics for it, and then we actually got Vincent Crowley in the band as the first guitar player.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't realize that Vince was actually the first guitar player for Nocturnus. Yeah, he had a band called Entity, and they had just split up, so it was kind of like a weird timing, like, he had just broken up with his band, I had just broken up with my band, and Richard had just broken up with his band, so it's like, well, let's all form a band. And it just, you know, worked out really well. And that lasted for a while, and we got Gino in the band because he was in Incubus before with me, you know, so I was like, well, you know, we could get him, you know, as a second guitar player, and so we got him in the band, and we recorded a first demo in 1987, and then Vince, he wanted to move from Florida. He wasn't happy here, living here, basically.
Right.
You know, he hated the heat. He loves the snow and stuff like that, like you do. He's up there, like you. Like he loves the cold. He hates the heat. So I understand that, you know. So he moved, and you know, and then that's when we got Gino's cousin, Mike Davis, on guitar. And that's how Mike Davis got into Nocturnus in the beginning, you know, and that was in 1988. And then Gino actually ended up going to jail, so we had to replace him with another guitar player. Well, actually, he was in the band, so we got a keyboard player. We were going to record a demo, and we were to that point, and it was me, Mike Davis, Gino, and Jeff Estes was the bass player, and we were going to, well, Richard had quit, actually. I didn't say that. But when Vince quit, Richard kind of quit, too, at the same time around, basically, and he joined Nasty Savage. Actually, he quit first to join Nasty Savage because their bass player was out on tour and put his hand through a window and messed all the tendons in his hand. He couldn't play. So they needed a bass player like snap of the finger. Richard's like, you know, they had festivals in Poland and everything. I mean, I can't blame the guy. We weren't doing anything but writing a demo, you know.
Right.
So he kind of just quit and joined, you know, Nasty Savage full time. And that's when we got Jeff Estes in the band. band. So that became the original kind of first lineup that people were familiar with the Science of Horror, demo, the second demo. And that's, the actual lineup that ended up going into Record the Key, too, as well. So that's how I got to that point. But that's, we did a second demo, and then we got signed to Earache, basically in late 89, and recorded the Key in 90, and did some touring, and then recorded a second album, Thresholds, with an actual singer. We signed like a 5-album contract with the Earache, and for the second album, they really wanted me to be a front man and not play drums, because they said, well, the guitar players are going, like playing really complicated stuff, and they don't move around. The keyboard player's behind the keyboard, and the drummer sings, but he's got this huge drum set, and you can't see him, So they're like, you guys either need to make the drummer the front man, or, get a front man and keep Mike playing drums. And everybody was like, well, I didn't want to stop playing drums because I'm really more of a drummer than a vocalist.
Right.
I didn't really see myself up there just singing, It's not me. I don't know. I like what I do.
Right.
But anyway, so I was against it, but everybody else was like, well, we'll get a better budget if we get a singer, and we'll get a video and all this. And Earache was like, if you don't, we're going to cut your budget. We're not going to give you a video. If you want to keep things the way they are, you can, but this is what's going to happen. If you want to get a singer, and go for a more commercial, because that's when like Dream Theater was getting really popular, but they were still kind of heavy. And so it was like everybody in the band was like against. And, when you sign a record contract, here's things people don't realize is that most of the time, all the members of the band sign the contract, not just one person.
Right.
So the label usually in that contract states somewhere that everybody is as well individually signed. So at that point, they all have a say-so in things. So it's kind of like, it was like a 4-to-1 thing of, okay, let's get a singer.
Right.
So we got a singer, and we got somebody that sounded a lot like that we tried to get that sounded close. We didn't get something that was like way off bat like Dream Theater or anything, because we could have.
Right.
At that point, we could have probably gone in any direction. But they wanted to go different with the lyrics. I had, completely different plans with the first album to continue it on the second album. But that, of course, since we got a singer, and then everybody wanted to start writing lyrics, and so we didn't connect anything from the first album to the second album at all. And I really wanted almost all of it to connect, And so that never happened, And we released the second album, and sold about a third of what the first one did, and then we came back from a tour that was decent, and they said, well, we now own the name. The band called me in after we came back on the tour and said, we now own your name, and you're not in the band anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we talked to Earache, and they never really did talk to Earache. They said they did at the time, and they said Earache was backing them up, and I was out of the band. And the weird thing was when we were recording Thresholds in Morrisound in the A room, Vince, of course, who I knew for years, he was remixing Rites of the Black Mass in the B room at Morrisound at the same time. It was kind of weird, it just happened that way, the scheduling. And so I ended up going in there, and hanging out with him several times, and ended up singing. That's how I sang the backups on that album, on Rites of the Black Mass, because I was happened to be in Morrisound recording with Nocturnus. So it's kind of funny. But, Vince, at that point, he had asked me if I wanted to, play drums, in Nocturnus and Acheron, basically, and do, do an album with him. And I said, sure, I should be able to do that. So basically, though, when I came back off that tour and they said I was done and fired, Acheron actually had a warehouse just like 3 or 4 doors down, and they were trying other drummers out, but they didn't have anybody. And I moved my drums like that day right down to the Acheron warehouse. Me and Vince picked up my drums and just walked them down there. And I was in Acheron that same day.
Well, that's good. That way you didn't go back and beat the crap out of everybody for kicking you out of the band.
At that point, I didn't like anybody in the band anymore. They weren't being friendly. They weren't, it was all business at that point, and they were fighting with each other. I mean, I rarely drink, and those guys were drinking and smoking every night on the bus. And I remember one morning I woke up and heard a bunch of commotion, and here, Lou and Mike Davis are on the ground punching each other outside the bus, over something that they had argued about the night before while they were drunk,
Yeah.
And that's what it had turned into. And I was just, everything was hostile, and I didn't want to be there, And, I was just like, when they fired me, it was almost like a relief at that point. I didn't like the direction everything had went in. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And, then when I found out they had actually trademarked the name, because I never did it because we got signed to a label and we didn't have to. I thought we didn't have to. But then when I talked to Earache, they were, I found out that they were like, no, they didn't tell us until after they fired you. So, Earache made them record a couple songs, which ended up being that Mummified demo that was out. I forgot what label that came out on, but it's just 2 songs.
Uh-huh.
And they recorded that for Earache, and Earache didn't like it, basically, and dropped them. So less than 6 months after they fired me, they were dropped from Earache, and I ended up doing 2 CDs with Acheron.
The whole disheartening thing about all of that, Mike, was it's your band to start out with. They do all this shit behind your back, and then even after doing all that, they didn't really do anything much with it after all that.
Well, they did try again in 2000 when they put out Ethereal Tombs, and they still had the name at that point,
right.
So, again, I was going to try to do another Nocturnus around 1999 and found out from a lawyer that I couldn't, And so I was like, well, they don't have the band. Well, and then I found out, they do have the band back together. I didn't even know that they put the band back together, And then they put out an album, and put the drummer in a gas mask, and I'm like, and if you look at Ethereal Tombs, there is no mention anywhere on the album who plays on it.
Huh.
Anybody.
Huh.
And the drummer's the only one with a gas mask on. I thought that was an odd thing to do. I don't know why it was done.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what the actual intention was.
Maybe they were hoping people would think it was you.
I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. I have no idea because I wasn't there. But I know, I've never seen an album come out with nobody's name on it except for Abominations of Desolation, which also doesn't have my name on it.
Uh-huh. Huh.
So that's the way I've been done in this music business. But that's all right. I still do what I do, and I've always done the same thing that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've changed it over the years and polished it in some ways and kept it raw in others. But, I'm still doing the same thing I did since high school because that's what I do. I can't do any other music.
Right.
I've done, I'll do some cover bands and play some Priest and stuff on the side for fun. But this is what I do. This is my passion.
So, let's talk a little bit about the album The Key, because this is kind of pertinent to what you guys are doing now. So, this was like a monumental album, I think, and I'm sure a lot of people think, in the career of Nocturnus. But we were talking about, by this point the band was kind of starting to get a little bit of a mess, and of course we read all over the place about the bass tracking on the band and Jeff being just so messed up and Mike having to do all that shit.
Yeah, Davis redid almost all the bass tracks because Jeff was really drunk when he tried to record them on the key, and he put his bass down and left the studio, and that was it, and he was drunk that morning, and 10 o'clock in the morning we show up at Morrisound to record an album, The Key, and he's drunk, holding a half a six-pack, arguing with his girlfriend in the parking lot of Morrisound.
Oh,
I mean, how embarrassing is that? Then the guy comes in and can't play his parts, and I'm trying to play drums with a bass, and I can't lock onto this guy. There's nothing to lock onto,
right?
And it's all slop. And Mike ended up having to kind of learn the bass parts. Well, he wrote, him and Gino wrote everything that's on that album, and basically, so he knows what to play, but he never played bass before, so he had to play it with a pick and played it like a guitar, and we had to turn it way down in the mix. That's why you really don't hear it. But, that was one, big, there was a lot of things that if we were more prepared, the key would have sounded even a million times better than it does. sound quality-wise and preparedness and stuff like that. You know, my drums were not really studio-ready. All the heads were old, and, you know, we didn't know about getting a budget ahead of time to buy stuff like that. And, you know, that's why we used a different drum set for Thresholds. We rented one because I had a kit that was basically a live kind of kit with no bottom heads, and Tom Morris was like, I can't mic a kit like this in the studio, and, you know, it's too loud, and it's just like, everything was wrong that we did for the first album because we had no preparedness, really, for recording a full album like that, you know. And but we got through it and did it, you know, and it became what it was. But I think what you're getting at is that within the album there were several stories, you know, and like Lake of Fire and Standing in Blood was going to have another song to go with that, you know, that I kind of thought would be cool. And when we started with, like, Neolithic, you know, had a story that was going to continue. I was maybe thinking of continuing Undead, but the main thing was the key story, which was like, you know, basically Andromeda Strain, Droid Sector, Destroying the Manger, and Empire of the Sands. It was basically 4 songs that were the key story. So what I wanted to do was, like, take every album and put 4 songs on there that would continue with that story. That way we didn't lock into having to do a conspiracy type, you know, King Diamond album where everything has to match every single album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want to get stuck in an Abigail situation, you know, where the full album is just one thing that you're writing about. So I thought, well, let's take, you know, like about a third of the album, make that, you know, that story, and then just do random other songs, you know, that are still in the same kind of vein of, you know, everything else that we kind of encompass. And so that's kind of like what we did with the key, you know, and I was fully waiting to continue doing that, you know, on Thresholds with new ideas for the key, you know, to continue the story. Of course, it would have been probably different than what I'm writing now, but that was the idea. And it never happened. So basically when I put this band back together and called it Nocturnus AD just a couple years ago, I decided that, you know, it was going to continue with that, and that was its purpose. You know, that's why it's not Nocturnus. It's Nocturnus AD. It's a resurrected situation of that first album.
And now, Mike, didn't, like, Cam Lee do some, like, backups on some of the vocals on the first Nocturnus there?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was, he was here for, like, the first couple days of the recording, and he invited Cam to the studio because he wanted to sign Massacre, like, you know, probably worse than anybody at that point. You know, he was, like, really wanted to sign Massacre really bad at the time. And he invited Cam to the studio when we were recording, you know, and said, hey, you want, you know, Cam to come in and sing some backups with you? And I was like, I've done shows with Massacre since I was in Morbid Angel. You know? So I knew those guys very well, and I'm like, sure, you know, let's do it. You know, that's cool. You know, so I always thought that kind of thing was great to have somebody, you know, guest on your record and sing some backups. I do it for people all the time, and you know, it doesn't take that long, and it's kind of cool. You know, it shows a camaraderie, you could say, or whatever. You know,
right.
But it's kind of, you know, it's kind of neat. You know, people show up on other people's albums and do just a little something here and there, and it's kind of cool. You know, it makes it kind of different and special.
Yeah, and I just wasn't sure if a lot of people knew about that. Like I said, I thought it was kind of cool. Okay, so when did you actually, you started talking about this, but when did you actually decide that you wanted to put Nocturnus AD back together? And what did you want to accomplish with this? I mean, you started just talking about that, but I cut you off like women do.
Well, actually, back in, you know, like I said, in '99 when I started, there's even a flyer where we were our first show for Nocturnus, when I didn't know that Nocturnus had gotten back together at the same time.
Right.
And I had, like, the original, like, myself, Bateman, and Gino. That was 3 of the original 4 members of Nocturnus. We were playing together again back in 1999. So I was like, I had more of the original members, you know, than the band did. You know, we had 3 of the 4 original members, you know, and it's like, okay, so let's do Nocturnus again. Then I found out I couldn't.
Right.
So I was going to call it Nocturnus AD at the time, and because they were actually using the name at the time, I couldn't even do that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that's when I dropped the Nocturnus and called it After Death. So After Death became After Death basically right at the end of 2000. In fact, we did one show as Nocturnus AD, and I have a flyer with Monstrosity at the State Theater in like a December or November of 1999, before I got told I couldn't use the name. So that's when I dropped the Nocturnus and just went with After Death for several years. You know, we did quite a few releases, and we started playing more and more Nocturnus stuff because people wanted to hear it live.
Right.
You know, it's like I don't mind playing that stuff live. If I wrote some lyrics and sang on it and played drums on it, I should be able to play the song. You know, if I came up with my drum parts, my lyrics, you know, I don't sing things that I usually don't write. So, you know, live, people want to hear that stuff. And I like playing it, you know, so I don't have a problem with it. So, you know, I usually, you know, we get requests for this stuff. And sometimes it's like, if you guys want to play this festival, will you do this? And it's like, you know, we would never usually on our own think of doing the Incubus songs, but we got a really special request from somebody, you know, that owns a label and everything that wanted us to do, you know, some Incubus songs for a festival, and they would fly us to Germany and everything. So we're like, you know, okay, you know,
sure.
Let's do that. You know, and it's cool to put your own, you know, because whatever we do, we put keyboards in it now,
right.
You know. So it's kind of, you know, we do it our own way. You know, we still do it, but we still do it their way and our way. So it's kind of cool. So I don't mind redoing some of the old stuff that I do because we do put a different spin on it, I think, you know.
Absolutely, and like you said, you've been touring even with now Nocturnus AD. So what do people think now? I mean, now, you know, Nocturnus AD, with the lineup that you have, I mean, what have been some of the reactions? I mean, when you went out with different people, I mean, were there skeptics, or were people just happy to see some kind of Nocturnus stuff going on?
Oh, come on, you know, today, come on, you know that. That's not even a thing anymore, skepticism. Nah. Skepticism does not exist anymore, right?
No.
Yeah, if that was the truth. But, you know, seriously, but that's, you know, like back to the After Death thing, you know, because I guess I didn't finish helping with your question either. I cut you back off on that one.
Okay,
but,
we're even.
Actually, you know, but we were doing more and more Nocturnus stuff, and people were asking all the time for Threshold stuff, and really the reason we didn't do it up until now is because I didn't sing on it.
Right.
You know? I mean, I played drums on it, but I didn't sing on it, and there's only a few songs that I wrote, you know, some of the lyrics to, so I really didn't have a lot to do with Threshold, so that's why we really don't do much of it here or any of it live.
Right.
But we've had so many people request it, and it would be kind of cool, just like we did the other stuff, so we'll probably... You know, we've actually, you know, said, okay, we'll go ahead and do, like, maybe just 2 songs off of Thresholds, you know, and you know, we'll learn those after we have a new keyboard player. So, you know, that's, you know, after he learns everything else, we'll all go back and, you know, teach ourselves a couple Threshold songs so we can kind of do those live here and there. You know, it's something different to throw in the set. But what happened was, you know, we were doing so much Nocturnus with After Death, that you know, and so many people were like, why don't you just use the name? Why don't you use it? And I said, I just don't want to get into a big legal thing because, you know, trademarks are trademarks. You still have to do it legally to go back and own it again. You know, if you want to try to own it, even though, you know, it's gone by the wayside because it's been so many years since it's been used, it's still the point that you have to, the people that did own it, which is the old other people in Nocturnus, basically the keyboard player owns it. You know, I don't want to go begging or asking, you know, him to sell it to me or something like that. That's just ludicrous to me, you know, and he hasn't offered it, just giving it to me, back to me, because it would cost money for him to do that, even though he made, you know, several thousands of dollars after me, you know, more than I made when I was in the band, from what I hear. But anyway, back to that situation, you know, we just got so many requests, I decided to do Nocturnus AD. You know, and you know, say, hey, if you guys want to come after me in court, go ahead this time, because I've got so much evidence that I had the band before you were even in it. Go ahead and try to sue me now. You spend your money and sue me and find out what happens. So I'm just going to keep using Nocturnus AD. I like it. It shows that it's a new band, different members, not Nocturnus, you know, but continues with the legacy of what the key was. And that's specifically with this band, really why when I told everybody that, because it's the same band as After Death, the same members. I just said, let's take a big break from doing After Death, change our tuning, because we're tuned to D in After Death, and Nocturnus, the key and threshold is in E flat. Mm-hmm. So when we played the Nocturnus songs, they sounded a little deeper and heavier, but they weren't correct, basically. Right. They were a half step down. And I told both guitar players and everybody else, of course, too, because everybody had to change tuning, but I said, if we do Nocturnus AD, we're not going to do the songs anymore in D. We're going to have to do them in E flat, like the old Nocturnus songs, and make it sound exactly. So we kind of stopped playing all the After Death stuff and just really started playing the Nocturnus songs and kind of studying them again, if that's what you want to say. Mm-hmm. And, when we got looking into writing Nocturnus AD songs, because they couldn't be what After Death was,
Right.
And it took us a while to break that After Death mold, because we've been doing it for 10 years, and we had to break being that band and become a different band, you know what I mean? But the same 5 members, which people don't usually do that. They have 2 bands, 3 bands, whatever, but they're always some different members. But we have the exact same band, in both bands. It's just, but they sound completely different, and we had to make sure that we sounded like the key more than anything. But Damien, who does write, well, a lot of these songs here, like the After Death stuff, Damien wrote, 90% of the guitar rhythms. Mm-hmm. And with this new stuff, I made sure both guitar players were there, and the rhythms were pretty close to 50-50, and we got more people writing. The new keyboard player we have, we made sure, Damien showed him where the parts are, but we let him play his own parts, that were different from the last keyboard player, so we have different versions of the songs now, and they actually, we're working through each one of those, but, we're teaching him everything, the old Nocturnus songs, new Nocturnus AD songs, and it's a lot for him to learn all at once, but he's getting it down really good, and, we have some shows coming up, so, it's coming out really well.
So at what point, Mike, did you guys decide, hey, we need to write some new stuff here?
Well, right away, I wanted to, when we started with Nocturnus AD, I was like, the point would be to continue it, so we'd have to, I didn't want to just keep playing the same songs over again, and I didn't want to have to add the threshold songs just to have new songs.
Right.
So I definitely wanted to have, new songs that we wrote as a band, which is important, I think, It's like, I know we're up there playing songs that I put my parts into, but, they didn't, the other people. So now we have things that everybody has contributed a part to. Everybody has written their own parts. It's really good now. Everybody feels, like we've accomplished something together.
Right.
And, and then we put that out, and, well, we put one song out, and people really are, liking it, so I'm happy about that, because, as you know, nobody's skeptics anymore.
Right. So tell us a little bit about, the new stuff that you're doing now. Now, you said that you wanted it to kind of pick up where the key left off, so, is there, a concept that you could tell us about on this album, Mike?
Oh, sure, there's several.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Which is cool. Yeah, well, everybody knows the key story. The guy goes back in time, and once he destroys Jesus, he basically takes over Egypt at that point. And it kind of picks up from there to where, the first song, it starts off there where he actually goes to the Sphinx and finds a secret chamber underneath. And it's got all this ancient machinery that's from, another world underneath of it, and and of course the key makes it work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the next 3 songs, which kind of continue on that story of him operating the machinery, it opens a portal basically where he goes back, where these creatures appear, and then they bring him back to their world and teach him all kinds of new stuff, and then bring him back again. So and bring him back through the portal, and then he kind of takes over the world now at that point, even stronger than he was.
And with all these songs and this concept you have, and with all the things available now as far as albums and stuff, you must have all kinds of stuff in your mind for art, or what about booklets and stuff like that?
I have so many ideas, and that's, the problem is I have so many ideas. I could have massive stuff going on, It's just, it'd be ridiculous, the amount of budget I could spend on a show,
right.
With special effects and stuff, if I could, have that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we do have, that's really been the main thing that when I've been talking to the couple labels we've been talking to, is that, we want a video.
Right.
Some people think it's a great idea. Some people think they're old-fashioned now. But I think with the right type of video, and I'm not talking, I don't want a video where our words go across it with a little bouncing skull or whatever.
Right.
I don't want any of that stuff. I want a CGI, half CGI and half green screen with the band playing the song.
Mm-hmm.
A video like that. I want crazy stuff going on behind us while we're playing, and then, which is not hard to do with green screen anymore.
Right.
That's easy, and then, 3 minutes of animation, basically, and that. And it's going to be, some really crazy CGI animation. I'm not going to do it. It's way past what I can do at this point. But at least I've been learning this stuff myself, so I have ideas,
right.
And now I can kind of express those ideas, and basically what I want to do is in a 3D form almost is bring the key character to life in these CGI
mm-hmm.
effects, to where he's actually a character now. He's a 3D real character, and designing him and everything like that, So that's what I want to happen with the video, but it'll also lead to, several other things. So, at that point, possibilities are endless. You could have games, with crazy creatures going through portals, with with the key guy blasting them, whatever. It could be endless. I have so many ideas, it's ridiculous. and I have like song titles that I just think of them sometimes, and when the song title pops in my head, almost the whole idea does too, like a movie. Oh, wow. And I literally have to stop and put the memo in my phone, like this song title, and then like it jars up the whole thing like a file cabinet, So that's the way I get it. I get like a title almost in my head, and almost the whole picture, like a movie, just comes into play what I want to write about.
So, Mike, how far along are you in this process? I mean, when, like you said, and we all heard you released the one demo song, but, I mean, is this going to be a full length?
Yeah. I mean, a few people wanted to do an EP, and I said, well, I want to continue with several stories. One song we have continues with Neolithic, called Paleolithic. We have another song that called Seizing the Throne that like goes with, Lake of Fire, Standing in Blood, and Seizing the Throne. It was a, triplet kind of song, a tri-song kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And that kind of is supposed to just complete that, little thing. But, I wanted to continue that, and we have a song that continues that now. And we have, like a song that continues Neolithic. We have 4 songs already written that continue with the key story. And then we have, like another couple songs that are just basically, Nocturnus lyric style songs, So, but we have 8 songs, 6 of them with lyrics completely done, mm-hmm. and then 2 more, all the music's done, and then and 1 more we've already started on the 9th, and we're gonna have 9 songs on the album. So, wow. And even at that, they're pretty long songs. Most of them are around 6 minutes, and that's even without intros. So I think we're probably going to end up, having some intros and outros this time to connect a lot of it together again, like the key was. And that'll, probably the album will probably be over an hour long, as it is. But there'll be 9 songs on it, and like I said, we've got 8 of them written already, except for a couple lyrics that I have to work on. But I've got the ideas already, so it's just got to. And with us, it's always been, we've always written the music, and I see where the leads sit and stuff like that, and then I figure out what's going to be where, and then, I kind of write my lyrics to fit the song almost. It's kind of funny, but I write lyrics from a rhythm angle more than a melody angle. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the difference in the way that I sing and a lot of other people sing, is I sing with the rhythm of the drums, basically. It's more of like a chanting style of vocal, mm-hmm. and most people sing, with a melody. but I don't do that. I kind of go against melodies and sing with the rhythms of the beat.
And
So,
are you guys gonna like be playing out this year too?
oh yeah, we're going to do one show because we have, like I said, a new keyboard player, Josh Holdren, and it's going to be his first show, and we have a festival in New York on the 28th, and that one, would have been his first show, so we wanted to do a local show first, so our first show isn't a big festival,
Right.
in a strange place. So we're going to do a show on Friday the 13th in Tampa of April, and then we're going to do the festival on the 28th in New York, and then we're going to be doing another festival in L.A., the Strike Fest. That one is in June, and then we're doing the big one, Brutal Assault Fest in Czech Republic in August. So we've also got that, and I wanted to make sure that we had like 80 to 90% of the album written before I started seriously talking to any labels, because I wanted them to hear something. We've had people already interested, but I really wanted everybody to hear something, and a couple other labels have popped up since that's happened. So, we have some pretty good offers right now that we're looking at, and I don't think it'll take us too long, and the good thing is we've got 90% of everything written. Some bands get signed, and then they still take a year to put the album out.
Right.
I wanted to make sure we were like 90% prepared to go in the studio before we even got a deal, and that's, you only get one chance to do your first song, and rather than just say, here's our demo, it's on SoundCloud, here's the link, I wanted to do like a whole production with a little teaser video and everything, and, it seemed to have worked,
It did, I think.
Like over 5,000 plays in a week.
Yeah, you caught a lot of people's attention. Now, and when you go out to play these shows, are you going to be playing some of the new stuff, Mike?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're mixing it up now that we have new songs and stuff. We've been actually playing some of these songs live, but we've been honing them down. And like I said, they're going to sound a little different now with the new keyboard player. So we've been getting really tight lately, and things have been gelling really well. So I'm pretty happy with the way things sound now. They've actually never sounded better, and things are getting really tight, and everybody's really getting into the little details of things that we've been kind of just like not, kind of passing by, attention to details. When you teach somebody all your songs all over again, you kind of have to relearn them with them.
Right.
You're like, ooh, that was not supposed to be there. Or, this is, let's do this here instead. So it's good. It's a really good thing. But we recorded 6 of those songs already, like that one that we released already. But only 2 of them have the new keyboards on them. So we're going to put the new keyboards on the other 4, and then we'll have 6 we can actually put out, but we're not going to. We'll probably put one more out before we record an album, because I think, we're so close to it now. I really want to get on a label and just actually record, the real album and get that out by the end of the year.
And so, Mike, I might as well tell everybody who's actually in the band. What the hell?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, myself on drums and vocals. Damien Heftel is the guitar player, and Belial Koblak, he's the other guitar player. Daniel Tucker, he's our bass player. He played on the first Obituary record, Slowly We Rot. And our new keyboard player is Josh Holdren.
And there you go. So, Mike, if people want to follow the band, see what the hell's going on with you guys, Facebook the best spot? Are you guys going to be working on a website or something like that as well?
Yeah, we had one at one point, and then now I have to take the link down because this guy in Poland was doing a site for us, and he was hosting it and everything. And it was through a job that he had, and all of a sudden everything just disappeared, and he just disappeared, and the website disappeared. All the information's gone.
Oh, man.
So, but it was mostly after death-oriented stuff anyway. It hadn't been updated in a while. So we're going to have to just redo a different one. But for right now, we've been just using the Facebook, and like I said, I haven't even done any advertising outside of Facebook, and we've already had over 5,000 views in a week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, yeah, if we get it outside of Facebook, I mean, it could even get way better. It's just every day it seems to keep growing. I'm like, well, it's got to start slowing down, but it keeps growing, which is awesome. I'm not, complaining in any manner, but I just never expected that. I was hoping to get a couple thousand plays,
Right.
And, I would have been super happy with that. And just to know that in a week we had over 5,000 is just like, whoa, I'm like, wow. you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I thought so too, and I was excited to see it too. And it caught on right away. I mean, I know, of course, I posted it right away, and then of course everybody was very excited. So I think it kind of lit that spark to start that fire a little bit, Mike. And Mike, before we go, is there anything else you want to put out there? Did we miss anything that you want to put out there about the band and the album, or to the fans, or anything?
Well, that's mainly it. You know, I mean, I think we covered all the new stuff, which is, you know, even farther than I told most people, with song titles and stuff. So you got more information than anybody has, actually, right now. This is probably the most information I've given out, you know, because it's, of course, the newest thing, and I don't mind talking about it. So, you know, I want people to know what we're doing, and I like to spring things on people like we did this song, because it kind of gives a little bit of element of a surprise.
Sure.
I know people are waiting, but you know, you tease them for a day or two, and they go, bam, there it is, you know, and they love it. You know, it's awesome, because I like when people do that to me too. You know,
Right.
Everybody likes that, you know, and they just don't like to get that to that point and then be disappointed.
Right.
You know.
Well, I don't
So
think they
I
were
wanted to make
disappointed.
sure it was more than just, okay, here's the link to our SoundCloud or Bandcamp page. You know.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have some kind of presentation to give it everything, you know, because you only get one chance for your first song as a band, and this was it. So I'm like, it's like almost like having a baby.
Well, it's awesome. And like you said, it got a lot of views really, really fast, and everybody is, well, I think a lot of people are super excited, because I know we've been hearing, oh, we're writing new music, and they're like, yeah, sure you are, you know. But then when you actually present something for us to see and hear, now we know that you're not effing around, you know, like they really are writing new music. Of course, the
Yeah,
people
I mean,
that
we
have
have
been...
another one, like I said, with keyboards already done and almost mixed that we could throw out whenever, you know. And we got 4 more that everything's done except for the keyboards. So it's just a matter of, we've been teaching him, you know, a live set because we have these other shows come up, but we're teaching him other stuff as well. So he's got a lot on his plate, and, you know, these songs aren't easy for any of the instruments. So, you know, he's got to be tight on the Nocturnus stuff and the new stuff and everything. So the recording, you know, that's why we were going to do a teaser. What we were going to do, why we did 6 songs, is we were going to take parts from all 6 songs and use that same video that I used and just do like a teaser, you know, with a bunch of parts. But then it got to the point, well, by the time we, you know, get all 6 of these songs, the keyboards recorded, it's going to be another few weeks, you know. And so we just took the first song that he finished the keyboards on, did a quick mix on it, and said, you know what, we're going to present this to everybody, because the song we put out has a lot of different parts in it, so it kind of, you know, encompasses a lot of different things. But all the songs kind of do, but none of them sound anywhere near each other, but they're all cohesive.
Right.
It's really cool when you listen to it all together. It does fit, but none of the songs, you know, have even the similar vibe as far as like the rhythms. They're all different. Everything's so different on every song, but yet it's all still the same.
Right.
You know?
It's all still has that like Nocturnus, and I think that's what a lot of people wanted to hear. You know what I mean? They wanted to hear, do they still sound, you know, like Nocturnus, or did they just go somewhere way different? Because, you know, how do we know? So I think you also relieved a lot of people, as well as got a lot of people excited for the new stuff.
Yeah, like I said, it was kind of like having a baby.
It
It's like, what's going to happen here? You know, is it going to come out good or bad? You know, it's like, what are people going to, you know, these days, you don't know if people, I mean, I've heard awesome albums that came out that people are just ripping on. And I'm like, okay. You know, I'm like, really? That's terrible to you? I'm like, yeah, okay, you know. I don't get it, some of it, you know. I'm like, there's albums that I thought were pretty damn good, and then it's like, people are ripping them to death. I'm like, oh, shoot, what's going to happen when we put our stuff out, you know? But, you know, I'm like, you know what, I can't think about that, because I don't think about that until after I do the stuff.
Right.
I don't think about it when I'm writing it or anything like that. I think about it after I record it, then I'm like, oh, I hope everybody likes it. But you know what, it's done, and so I just put it out, you know? And nobody's ever going to say they're, you know, super happy with everything they've done. Everybody's going to have something they can, oh, I wish I could go back and redo this part or this whole thing or this, you know. But, you know, at least I can say that the 6 songs that we did record, you know, I'm pretty happy with everything on them. And we got 2 more that we did the drums and some scratch guitar on too already. So, I mean, we were going to record the whole album ourselves just so we have it all done, you know, and we know what we want to do with every single song when we go in the studio, effect-wise, everything. You know, we have it all mapped out exactly what we want to do, what we want to put where we want delay, where we want, you know, pitch shifter on the vocals, whatever it is, you know.
Right.
You know, we've kind of done all that work already, you know, and everybody's telling us too. It's like, don't change that sound.
Well, because
and I understand, you know, it's like, oh shoot, now what do? We can't polish it too much more for sure, and we don't want
right.
to, but we kind of want to use a real studio. But what we have already sounds really good, you know. It's not amazing sounding, but it sounds really good, you know, and I'm really happy with my drum sound. That Damien is an amazing mixer. I mean, he just like he knows how to work these programs and just get the, you know, equalizers, and he knows a lot about frequencies and things like that, so things don't step on other things when you're mixing. You know, I mix by sound. I get in there and, you know, he does the engineer part, and I'm like, okay, throw this here and throw this effect here, throw this here, and then we fix the song together, and, you know, that's how we did this, you know. And I kind of would like to have somebody else come in as a producer, but then I'm kind of worried about that too, because we kind of know what we want, you know.
Right.
And at that point, you think, do you want a producer? At that point, if you really do know what you want, you know, or should you take that chance and let the producer put his fingers on your music?
Yeah.
You know, it could be a big mistake.
Yeah.
You know, or it could be the best thing you ever heard that was even better than you could have done it.
You'll never know until you try it, Mike.
Right, exactly. So I've never worked that much with a producer, you know, that tells you got to do this or that, you know, just labels that would tell you got to do this or that.
Right.
So that's an overall thing, you know. So you know, it's kind of, that's one thing we haven't decided exactly what we're going to do as far as how we're going to record.
Right.
Obviously, we could even get a little bit of a budget and just buy new mics and even make the same recording that we did way better over again, you know, because now that some of these songs, you know, were literally, you know, less than a couple weeks old at the point when we recorded the drums and stuff. So I feel more comfortable in them now. There's nothing wrong with them, but I feel even more comfortable with them now, you know.
Right.
They might even have a little bit more of a, you know, human groove to it.
You know, I think a lot of us liked that song that you guys put out because we're used to, like, the Key and the old Nocturnus, and that's, like, the quality, you know what I mean? Actually, the demo's better quality, you know? It's just, it's like, it's the same, and we got excited, so we don't want you to change, but I think people know.
I understand, and, I do want to keep it really, you know, heavy. Believe me, I'll never have a polished album. I don't think it's possible.
No, it would lose too much. You're not that kind of a band, but Mike. So you know, thanks.
I wouldn't be happy with it. I wouldn't want it to be out if it didn't sound like I wanted it to. You know,
of course.
Like I said, that's the worry I have with working with a producer. I do know what I want.
I don't know. I think it sounds
like and effects and things like that, and it's just like, if some of that stuff isn't there, I won't be satisfied with my music.
Well,
you know?
You better find yourself like an old school producer and not somebody.
Well, there are a few people that I know. You know, actually, there's a couple people I know that I could work with like that. You know, which is a good thing. You know, so you know, it's just, you know, a lot of decisions at this point with what we want to do, because, you know, we do actually have some choices, which is a really good thing.
And once you get yourself a label, you'll have, like you said, you'll have a bit of a budget to work with, and it'll take off some more, you know, stress and stuff to do it on your own. So, Mike, I'm going to let you get going so people could check out Nocturnus AD on Facebook for now to find out what's going on with you guys. If you guys release another little video there or a little teaser or something. And I assume you have all the events up on there of all the shows you're doing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to update some stuff this weekend, too. And now that I have, you know, my main goal is trying to get this thing out, you know.
Right.
I mean, we were going to put it out back around Halloween, you know, when the old keyboards were already on it. I mean, we had this thing finished, and we were actually going to have a guy who was a well-known person. I don't want to say it because it didn't happen, you know, but they were actually going to take those 6 songs and do exactly what I was going to do, and we were going to cut them up and do the teaser video on Halloween. And of course, we ended up having to fire our keyboard player, and and how that went. I don't want to get into that whole story, but we ended up firing our keyboard player and having to redo everything as far as keyboards. And it took us a while to find the right person, and now we have somebody that's just really making the whole band better. And it's like you realize when you put somebody new in there, after you've been jamming with the same people for 6-7 years, then you put this new person in there. It's like, whoa, something just changed again, But it was a really good change this time.
Well, that's good.
It's been a very positive thing. As you can hear, his keyboards sound fantastic on there. So I'm very happy with his playing. He's picking up the songs. He's smart. He's into the occult stuff. He knows. I can talk to him about Crowley and Kenneth Grant and people like that, and he knows everything about that stuff, and it's great. He's a very intelligent person. So it's awesome to have somebody like that in the band. I hope everything works out. With all of us, because I really like the people we have in the band now. Which is something that you don't see.
That's good. Well, you're all adults now, and you've been around the block a few times. You know what to look out for. And Mike, thanks for coming on the show, and we look forward to having you back on when the album comes out. And we wish you all the best in all this touring and getting a label and finishing the song out, the album out, and everything else.
Yeah, it's a matter of just working out all the details now. All the hard work is done. Mm-hmm. Basically, as far as writing, that to me is the hard work. Once you get all that down, then it kind of gets a little easier after that. Redoing the other stuff, and now that we know what we want everywhere, it's the hard part to me. It seems like it's done. I feel confident about the rest of it, at least. Which is good.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Mike.
Definitely. All right, and we'll talk when we'll put another. We talked about putting one more song out before we actually go in to record, but after probably this one festival, but before the next one. So sometime probably late in May, I say we'll probably throw another song out for everybody. That's this style, exactly recording one of the same songs in the same session, and that'll hold everybody up a little bit longer so we can record and get this real album out.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to that. You have a great night.
All right. See you.